Welcome to Inspired Edinburgh, the home of powerful conversations. I'm Elliot Reeves, and my guest today is SELBY CARY. SELBY is the co-founder of Helping Hands Promotions, a promotional marketing business that puts social and environmental responsibilities first. You provide local cafes, coffee shops, and retailers with free, branded, decompostable hot beverage cups and donate a portion of your profits towards helping the homeless people. You won the Edinburgh Apprentice earlier in the year, and your mission is to create a new social movement that sees all profitable organisations creating shared value and helping those around them. SELBY, it's absolutely brilliant to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's an absolute pleasure. We've obviously spent a bit of time together in the past, and I think you've got a fantastic story to tell, and yeah, I love your mission, so I'm looking forward to this.
I'm excited. Let's get going.
Good stuff, good stuff. The best place that we can start, I think, is really, you're a young guy, but starting with your early life, where you grew up, and I suppose, yeah, kind of what your early life was like.
I guess that's sort of a long story, but we'll start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I was born in Zimbabwe, quite a while ago now, I guess, and parents lived there for 7 years. I grew up on a farm, which was an interesting experience. Then unfortunately Zimbabwe went through some trouble and my parents emigrated to Zambia, where my dad became an agricultural advisor and I went to school there. I went to international school and did A-levels, and at that point, it got me used to the British system, and I really sort of fell in love with engineering before I even knew it. I rebuilt a classic Spitfire Triumph, and I fell in love with breaking things apart and figuring out how they worked. And then I think I maybe came to my sort of final year of school and decided that I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be a problem solver. I came across the UK and decided to do mechanical engineering. Fell in love with Edinburgh. As you can imagine, it's a beautiful place. Fell in love with the people, the campus, the excellence in engineering. And then chose Heriot University to go to. And I've just graduated after 4 years of spending my time there. And I couldn't be more happier. I had a fantastic time there. Had a great time. Met loads of amazing people, and I guess my last semester of university, I decided to take a chance. Entered the Edinburgh Apprentice, as you just mentioned there.
Yeah.
I won it. I was very lucky with that, and came out of it with a business idea that people were, I guess, inspired by, and interested. And I decided at that point in my life that I might as well take a chance. I'm still young, it's the perfect time to take that risk.
Yeah.
To be an entrepreneur, and I guess the rest is history.
That's a great summary. Really, really good. I think what fascinates me is the fact that you wanted to be an engineer, you did engineering, and yet you didn't become an engineer. And we'll get to that. I think one of the things that I'd like to ask you about is growing up in Africa, culturally, how do you think they differ to, say, Edinburgh?
I think it's not as different as you might think, but maybe the way we deal with situations is a bit different. So my grandfather, for example, who is my absolute idol, and I'll say that on camera because he's a fantastic man. He's very caring, he's very honest, and he would drop everything to help you. Zimbabwean people are a community. It's not like I've seen in Edinburgh. Edinburgh is a lovely city, and it's community here. In Zimbabwe, you know somebody with a couple of connections, from 2 or 3 people's removed, and you would help them. You drop everything to help them. They're very caring people. And no matter what situation happens, there's always a plan. Zimbabweans always have a plan. We're always a MacGyver, so we always find a solution to something.
Yeah.
And I think the people in Zimbabwe, Africa in general, are much more laid back. I think we're not so worried about the future, as much as worrying is as effective as chewing bubblegum to solve an algebra problem.
Yeah.
So I think people believe in mañana. They think about, we'll do it tomorrow. So it makes people a bit more relaxed.
Yes.
But Edinburgh is not so different. Everybody here is really excited, and I think the young people in Edinburgh have a lot more on the future cards for themselves. Like they're trying to aspire to the future, whereas in Zimbabwe everything's a bit more relaxed. But as a culture, I think it's very different, but it's lovely. Excellent.
I was looking at the Helping Hands website, and there's an enormous amount of statistics on it. One of the things that I think really interested me was it said where you grew up, employment rates reached almost 90%.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I think Zimbabwe and some parts of Africa are a complex issue. You can't just look at it as figures. You can't just see it as this many people are unemployed. But unfortunately, the reality was that at a certain point, people got to official jobs, unemployment official jobs anyway, rose to that scale because all the people are forced out of the general industries that you're used to in the UK, and all the industries go to the black markets. A lot of people actually trade on the streets. There are a lot of flea markets, as you would call them, and people actually grow their own foods and things in the rural areas, and they sell it and they trade between each other. So the unemployment rates have risen because the formal, I guess, jobs that you would normally utilize, those opportunities are gone. And that's all to do with stability in the country. And that's a completely different issue, and I guess people could speak about that for hours, about the political and geopolitical side of Africa. But the reason that's such an issue, and that's what brought me to heart when I came to Edinburgh, is the homelessness issue in Africa is just something that we take for granted. We just realize it's there because it's part of being impoverished nation and all the rest of those things. And I guess you expect it of Africa. The problem is you expect those things because of the geopolitical issues. And then when I came to Edinburgh, I kind of saw that the issues of homelessness still exist. And I guess I wouldn't say frightened by it, but it made me realize how, as a country like this and a nation, that it's not as perfect as I once envisioned when I was a child. And that sort of gave me a bit of an inspiration to really take Helping Hands forward, because if this is such an issue, and I'm sure you've obviously gone to my website, it's over 28,000 people are registered homeless in Scotland alone. 363 people spend their nights alone, cold on the streets. Obviously the figures vary and figures different from different references, but at the end of the day, there's still a lot of people. And for a developed nation like this, I never expected it to be like this. So the issues in Zimbabwe are one step ahead, but the issues in Edinburgh are not far removed. It just so happens that Zimbabwe's rating is a lot higher.
Yeah. Tell me about your experience in the Edinburgh Apprentice, and I suppose how that links in with the idea of Helping Hands.
I think the story behind that is actually quite funny, because I think it's better to tell you what happened on the day. So me and my friend Michael McDonald, who's obviously my business partner for Helping Hands, we fantastically made it to the final round, or he made it to the semi-finals and I made it to the final. And we got through a lot of resilience in the first round. It was quite hectic. Our store was shut down in the sales round, so we technically lost, but we were given a second chance because we proved that we could do it, but unfortunately circumstances did not allow us to do it. And we persevered, and we were resilient, and we built a website with our group member Michael Waite, and we built a website and we sold raffle tickets online. We managed to successfully go through the rounds, and through that resilience we had this sort of passion and drive to get to the end. And I got to the end. We always said, we've got to do this. We've entered this competition, we're going to take it through to the end. And on the day that we were presented with our final idea pitch for the final, I had a presentation for university, and I was working from 5 p.m. till 1 a.m. in the morning. And I had to design a business in 24 hours. Jeez. And I called up Michael and I said, Michael, I need your help, man. I need you to help me sort of build this thing. Like, I've got an idea, I think I know what I want to do, but I just don't have the time. So I'm going to have to be up all night. And he said, don't worry, man, I will be there for you. And he turned up at my door at 12:30 after I got back from work. And we worked till 7:30 in the morning.
No way. Designing
Helping Hands. He did the finances and everything else. I did sort of designed the business plan, the presentation, the marketing side of it, and how we were going to develop the business. And went to sleep for 3 hours, woke up, pitched the idea. And I think I've said this a couple of times to different people, but my first words were, I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm going to tell you a story, and I'll let you decide what you think of it. And I think came to the final awards dinner, and they announced my name, and I was quite, I guess I wouldn't say shocked or surprised, but I was happy. I was happy but surprised all at the same time. And because I knew that at that point that was sort of a defining moment for myself, where I realized that this idea that I had was actually something real. And people were quite interested in it, and we got a lot of investors afterwards saying to us, do you need money, should we get involved with you? And I think the beauty was that this idea that came out of nothingness, came out of a conversation, and I was playing with a coffee mug I had on my desk, hearing what we had to do for the final. And I realized, what would be great? If I didn't have to worry about recycling this. And I thought back to a time where a friend of mine, Tamara Cosgun, who's actually involved with the business, told me about advertising on coffee cups. And I thought, that could be a thing. that's how we could generate this. We could start making effect, and one domino effect led to the next and the next and the next. And I guess here we are today with a much more detailed business plan. I don't think the first one was perfect, but I don't think we are right now, but we're constantly evolving and changing, and we've got this vision and this goal and this drive. And ever since the Edinburgh Apprentice, I realized that dreams do come true. And if you've got an idea, it could change the world. So I guess that was my experience with Edinburgh Apprentice. It was a great competition, and I would recommend anyone to do it, really, to test yourself, to push your boundaries.
Great
I guess
stuff.
that's my experience.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah. So what is Helping Hands for people that don't know what Helping Hands is? How does it work? And what were the steps that you took in order to actually bring it to fruition? I
think I'll start with the first one, what Helping Hands is. So Helping Hands is really a movement. I think I can define it by what our product is right now, but it's really a movement. It's really our concept of how change should move. Making it easy for customers and consumers like you and me to make a change without having to take a step out of our daily lives. Because we're all quite busy. We all have our own lives to concentrate on, and it's very hard to take a step back and try and concern yourself with other people's problems. So in Helping Hands, we're trying to break those things down to the basics. I'm an engineer. I constantly look at a problem as how to solve it, and I break it down to basics. And I use first principles, and I apply the same concept to issues in society, and that's how I'm trying to solve them. So Helping Hands, like you mentioned before, we're a startup social enterprise. So we're a for-profit business, which allows us to be sustainable. So it means over the long term, we don't have to worry about funding and finance like charities do. We will constantly be making a difference because we're constantly receiving income. So what we do is our first product is called the Helping Hands Cup. This is, as you said, again, compostable cups. So basically means you don't have to worry about it. It'll biodegrade between 8 to 12 weeks. You can throw it in your trash without a single worry because you know that it's not going to hurt the environment, right? To a certain extent. And on the second side of it, we're also aiming to use those cups to give job opportunities to homeless people or ex-homeless people so that we can provide something to society that'll help sustain them. And in doing so, we give these cups for free to local organizations, cafes, restaurants, etc. like that. And that helps them reduce their costs and compete against larger brands such as Costa and Starbucks. And also allows them to group together and become a bit more of a community. And we call this a Helping Hands community. And this leads us back to the Helping Hands effect. So what we're actually trying to achieve at Helping Hands right now is to reduce consumer waste. And that means anything from a coffee cup to a pizza box to any takeaway cutlery you use. In the future, we envision people not having to worry about anything you take from shops and stores, because at the end, it's all going back into the ecosystem. And at the end of the day, you won't have to worry about a homeless issue in Edinburgh because the job opportunities will be there for those that want them. Because companies like myself, and hopefully in the future, we would have inspired more people to offer the kind of opportunities that we are doing. Hopefully in the future, people offer opportunities to people who don't have them. And doing so, produce a helping hand to those in need. And at the same time, growing your community and making your community stronger together and connecting us more together. And that leads to what we call the Helping Hands effect. And we're still a young business, obviously. We've only been operating, I think, 5 months now. We're trying to develop our business model and doing it all in our spare time. We're not getting paid for this. And we're trying to make a difference from this. So our Helping Hands effect envisages this in one day. And one day, a man will walk into a cafe and he'll ask for a coffee. And he'll be presented with a Helping Hands cup. And that Helping Hand cup, he drinks his coffee with. He sees as a local organization advertised on that cup. And he says, interesting, who is this local organization? He researches them. Interesting, they get a new contact in their business. And at the same time realizes that Helping Hands is trying to make a difference. Instead of worrying about where that cup is going, he throws it in the bin, and it's not a problem. The next time he goes to the cafe has a new person working for them. Because now they've got more income, or rather they've got a reduction in costs, so they can employ more people for their cafe. And he takes another cup, and he realizes, wow, they're actually starting to make a difference, right? And the next time the cafe meets somebody, it's an ex-homeless man. And he's delivering the cups. And he's chatting to them, and he's engaging with them. And then next thing you realize is the community is actually engaging with the homeless community. And you realize that homeless people are just like you and me. We're all human, and that's created a job in that community. And next thing you see is a homeless person who is now a professional, now integrated back into society, reaching out a helping hand to another homeless person or ex-homeless person saying, listen, there's an opportunity for you here. So this whole cycle means that everybody gets impacted. And hopefully, obviously, it might be an idealistic dream, but hopefully one day I won't have to worry about these issues, and neither will you. We'll just walk down the road, get our local coffee cup, and we know that we're already contributing 10 quid to donations every year for something as simple as maybe 10,000 cups. And we know at that same time we're creating shared value. We've got people being employed. We've got local organizations being helped. And at the same time, we don't have to worry about wasting the environment anymore. But this is, I guess, an idealistic dream. And I'm a dreamer. I think that's what I am. So hopefully we'll see this thing being brought into fruition in the next couple of years. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, you tell the story so well. You communicate your vision so well, and it really is such a compelling thing. I've actually got your vision and your values in front of me. One of the ones that really stood out is one day you'd like to have a homeless person running the business. I just think that's incredible.
I think that was our dream when we first started, because I guess a bit of a backstory behind how I knew a little bit into the homeless community. I tried to volunteer once upon a time for a charity. And it took me ages to actually get to the point where I was able to volunteer. There was a lot of bureaucracy around it, and I decided just to take it upon my own steam and start speaking to people in the homeless community. And I spoke to a guy, his name was John. I didn't know anything else about him other than that. And I asked him about the issues in the homeless community and what was actually going on. And I realized that there was a lot more complex problems than we ever realized, or I ever realized. I thought it was just people on the street begging for money. These are simple things that we forget. That there's a lot more behind it. There's always a story behind every person, every face.
Yeah.
And I realized that what I would like to do is use a complex that we keep getting taught in Africa, which is, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. And I had envisioned someone like John, right, who picks himself up with that determination, that courage, right, to then work for a business like ourselves. We train him, we grow him, we help him become the person we think that he can become. And one day, we realize that he's inspiring others, and he picks himself up and he leads the business. Helping Hands doesn't have to be mine or yours. It should belong to the community one day.
Yeah.
But right now, I've taken upon myself to try and lead this, and hopefully we can make a difference with that. And hopefully one day we can see somebody like John leading the business and inspiring more people who think there's no hope left for themselves on the street to actually pick themselves up or to actually look for help.
Yeah.
And maybe inspire people like you and me to actually start offering that help and that helping hand.
Yeah.
And that's where the name Helping Hands came from, because at the end of the day, we're a community. Here in Edinburgh, we're a community. Here in the UK, in the world, we're all sort of connected in that way. So if we all offer each other a helping hand, a bit like we do in Zimbabwe with our community, and I think that's what I definitely brought with me when I came here, is helping other people, or trying to the best I can with what I've got around me. And hopefully at the end of the day, Helping Hands will do that, will be that inspiration.
Yeah. So you've partnered with a number of different brands as it currently stands. Social Bite, Street Change, Streetworks, and Prana Designs, who I believe were the people who built the website.
Exactly.
Who else? Do you kind of screen your partners? Is there any people specifically that you're looking to partner with, and how will that work longer term?
I think the way we want to look at partners is we want to utilize skills that we don't have. So obviously I'm an engineer, and I'm trying to learn to be, I guess, a CEO or director in this way. And I'm trying to gain as much experience as possible from what I can take, what I can learn, what I can research, any meetings and conferences I go to. And I'm trying to grow personally so I can do better as a leader in hopefully this industry and this business. So we're taking advantage of these partners by using their skills and expertise. So I'm not a psychologist, for example, so I wouldn't know the issues behind the mental capacities of people and how they've dealt with their issues. And maybe I'm not quite ready to be able to do that right now. So we're taking people like Social Buy who've got experience in this. And when the day that finally comes, when we have the finance available to actually employ somebody full time, we'll take advantage of Social Buy and use their experience and their expertise to actually get somebody into our business who's ready and support them through that process. So Social Buy is a fantastic organization. They've done lots of good. And they've got a Social Bite Academy where they can feed ex-homeless people who are ready to go into a job into our organization. And in that case, we're supporting them, and then hopefully they would support us. Street Change is a way for us to donate to helping homeless people get more job opportunities. It could be somebody wanting to buy a new bicycle so they could deliver goods or going on a training course. And so social bite and street change together form two parts of our story. So we become a network. So we realize that we can't do this alone. So the issue of homelessness is so complex that not one person can solve this issue. And that's why I'm trying to create this network of people to help us. The same with Prana Designs. Again, I'm not a website designer, so we're utilizing their skills and expertise. So again, they're a fantastic company. They're a local Edinburgh company, and the director, Chris Hewitt, has helped us more than enough times to get us on board. And as you've seen our website, it's quite slick, and we're trying to develop that, and he's helping us with that, It's that link to the community that I'm constantly aiming for. And hopefully in the future, we'll link up with potentially Syrians or even Shelter and try and integrate our websites so that at the end of the day, if you want to donate your clothes, you can come through us and we can show you where to do that. You want to donate your food, there's food sharing for Edinburgh. If you want to donate this and that, if you just want to contribute a little bit, we've got a donation platform now, so you can put 5 or 10 quid in there. And at the end of every month, that money goes to street change, and it can be allotted, and hopefully in the future we'll have a voting system so that you as the donator, as the community, can decide which person you would like to support through street change. Or if not, it can go into a pot and distribute it equally to everybody. And that's the way we sort of see it, is that taking advantage of the skills that are already out there. We don't have to diversify ourselves and do all 100 jobs that they are needed in this industry. We can specialize and say, we'll provide the platform, we'll provide one side of it, we'll start helping reduce consumer waste and also providing opportunities and raising awareness, most importantly, raising awareness about these issues. And when we do that, we can utilize our neighbors and our friends in the community and get them to help us, and in the hopes that we can help them. And eventually we can start digging into this hole and start making real change. So I guess that's why we have so many partners. And hopefully in the future, we can start helping each other more than just raising awareness. In the future, when we do partner up, we can start seeing the homeless numbers fall and the reasons why homelessness is falling as well, and more support in the community. I guess that's what I want to see with the partnership. So we all want to work together through a common goal, which is to improve the lives of others around us.
Fantastic, We live in a world of almost infinite abundance. Why do you think homelessness is such a problem?
I guess that's the $1 million question, isn't it? It was a very difficult question to answer as well. But I think homelessness exists because as a system, as a society, the way we orientate ourselves is always based on what works and what doesn't work, right? And sometimes it doesn't work for certain people. So 25% of people that are homeless leave their homes because of like a dispute in the family. Another 25% of people leave their homes because they're forced to. So that's 50% of people via the figures that we've referenced that leave their homes not because of, become homeless rather, because of no drug issues, because of no mental issues, purely because of their situation. So I think what we've got to do, and I think the main problem here we've realized is there's systems in place that sometimes help the majority, but sometimes it leave the few without an ability to be supported. So I think I may have spoken about this before as well, but the support system as a whole is one of the things that I think needs to be changed. I mean, from somebody who's gone to the bottom end of the scale, they need to be built up to be integrated back in society, and it's very hard. And my analogy of it is being a bit like a child, right? When you're first developing, trying to learn how to engage, for example. Like when I was a child, I didn't quite understand emotion, I didn't quite understand how things in the world worked. And I had to be supported through that. And sometimes when you're not supported through that, you can always fall back, and then there's a lot of misunderstanding and miscommunication. So we should treat the issues in society sometimes like that. Sometimes provide support whenever necessary. So through the beginning of it, through the issues of mental health and illness, and through the issues of housing maybe, and through the issues of integration back into the job market, and then further on. And at the end of the day, a bit like there's a movie, and I actually spoke this to you about as well.
That's right, yeah.
With Jamie Foxx and Robert Downey Jr. And in the end of this movie, they realized that the most important thing was just simple friendship, simple understanding of that person's situation and putting yourself in their shoes. And at that point, we can start bridging the gap between what we consider to be people who are homeless or on the streets and those of us who are integrated into society and live our daily lives. So I think one of the main reasons that homelessness still exists is I think we disconnect ourselves from the situations of others. And in becoming more self-aware about our situation, about the way our fellow man lives, man or woman rather lives, we might be able to realize that we're all the same. And once we make that realization, we can take steps towards ensuring that that never happens again. That people are not hungry, people don't have to stay out in the cold at night, that people don't feel like they're unloved and on the streets, and they feel like they're just not looked at because there's something that shouldn't be looked at. And obviously it gives me some personal disgust as well when I hear people talking about different things in the homeless community. But I realize that there's a lot we can do. And one of my goals is to personally see if we can try and support other people and support people on the streets as much as possible. If that means changing the system, that means changing the processes that we currently hold, then so be it. Change is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So that's what.
Yeah, I mentioned this to you before we started as well, and you know, someone could easily say, well, you've got corporations who turn over enormous amounts of money. Why is it that you've got a guy in his early 20s from Zimbabwe that's having to try and cure what is a really, you know, significant problem? Why aren't other people taking responsibility for it?
I think again, it is quite difficult to analyze this, and I'm no psychologist at all. And I just look at it from a human perspective. So there's no cure for the human psyche. We all have choices, and we all make decisions. Some people make choices that lead to bad things and unfortunate circumstances. But when you talk about larger organizations, you know, for them to take accountability of something that is not their responsibility is very hard. So where do you place the responsibility of homelessness, of these issues in society? Whose responsibility is it to actually do something about it? And sometimes as a business, you know, you've got, as a large corporation, maybe you've got certain responsibility to your customers or to your communities, to your stakeholders. And it's very hard to say that your responsibility is to all the homeless people in the UK. And I think that's one of the key issues with large organizations and the government as a whole. It's like, whose responsibility is it? Whose job is it really to look after this and to make sure it works? And then you start talking about the financial aspect of it. Where does the money come from, and how do you associate that money and benefit to cost? And that's where people like myself come in, where we see the system as it is, and we see the forthcomings of it. We see the issues in the system. And I guess for someone like me, the reason why I did it is I saw an issue in society, and I had two options. I could have either accepted it and moved on with my daily life, or I can take action. And I guess I've got this sort of drive and ambition and passion for making things better, figuring out how they work as an engineer and trying to make them better, building a better car, or looking at a better way to solve a business problem, or consulting on a way that helps people. And then when I had this opportunity to finally make a difference, I did. I took it. I grasped it with both hands. And I think it's kind of sad in a way that it has to be somebody like me, who's got no experience in this industry, taking charge of it. And I guess I'm not taking charge. I'm very inexperienced. I'm only a startup business. Me and my partners have only been working on this for a short period of time, and I'm constantly learning and growing and evolving. But I'm hoping that one day this sort of movement, this inspiration that we're trying to show here, is that somebody like me, a graduate from university, who could have got a job, a very lucrative job, working in the energy industry, has taken it upon himself to start a business in this manner, with all the risk that are associated with it. And as much as my parents have obviously said to me, you know, it is quite risky. Yeah, I understand it is, but I think it needs to be done, and I think somebody's got to do it. And what is my purpose in life other than to try and make other people around me feel better and to live better? Sort of gives me a sense of purpose, I guess. And I know there's no true altruism in the world, and you know, nothing is truly selfless. And maybe it's my selfishness wanting to do something with my life that is meaningful. But that's the thing. I think I've taken responsibility for this now, in a sense, in a small part anyway. And I think as I slowly speak more about this and this vision and share it with the world, hopefully somebody will look over and say, actually, you're right. Maybe we should be starting to do something about this. And hopefully that's going to happen. That's the why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to hopefully inspire people. And if that means I have to lead from the front, and I have to start with coffee cups, and next thing it's recycling all those coffee cups, and next thing is cleaning up our oceans, if I have to take that charge, I will. I will spend 70 hours a week. I'll spend all my hours in the week if I did.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
that's why it is.
Yeah, it's so inspirational, really. Absolutely fantastic. You were recently away travelling. You took the opportunity to go and see some of the the Far Eastern countries. How has that impacted your outlook and your kind of worldview?
I guess it's done a lot. I realized going to Asia, I expected to be one thing. When people tell you about a place, you have these expectations, and when you finally go there, it's either shattered or it's exactly true. You find these commonalities with it. When I went to Asia, it was very similar to Africa in a way. Like I felt there was a lot of similarities, not just how the people live day to day, but also about the systems that surround them and the people. So some of the people are obviously oppressed. Some of the people live day by day, but most people are actually happy. So a lot of people just sort of accept their situations that they're in and appreciate it, because obviously it can always be worse, and they see the people around them that have less, and they're still happy. So I guess throughout my travels, I always found that a lot more people are actually more similar than we ever imagined. So a student in Cambodia, for example, may be under very different circumstances than a student in the UK. But nonetheless, we still have deadlines to go through. You still have to study. You still want to get through university. You still want to make something better of yourself. Yeah. Everyone still has these goals and dreams. And there was an Indonesian man I spoke to on my travels, and I spoke about how the UK, what sort of lifestyle we led here, and he came to sort of the conclusion after saying that we had a better lifestyle than his, which is true. I guess we have a better standard of living. He also said that it's a hard life. After I sort of spoke about what it's like to live in a modern economy, in the first world country, as we would describe it. And he kind of was like, yeah. He said he understood. He said he's happy where he is right now, and I guess it made me realize how similar we all are, how connected we all are. And I say the word connected because it makes you feel that the person who's 10,000 miles away could be thinking the same thing as you, looking at the same moon as you are, wondering what their purpose in life is. They've got goals and dreams and ambitions. They've got family and they've got friends. They still live day to day, and they still strive to be happy. I think that's what I learned most about in Asia, is that it's a completely different culture, but a culture aside, we're all still human beings. And I'm not sure, wouldn't say it was a philosophical journey, but I guess I had a great time, met loads of people, and whether they're from Australia or New Zealand or Canada or from South Africa or from the UK, from Germany or from France, who knows where. Like, we are all very similar people, and traveling, you put aside your differences. You just enjoy the experience. And I think that's what really inspired me while I was over there, just to come back to Edinburgh and just to enjoy the experience and the roller coaster that is being an entrepreneur and being a startup, and also inspired me to do a bit more, because I realized there's a lot of issues out there, a lot of issues we have as society and in the world, in the global community. And if I can make one small difference, if I can inspire one other person and they do the same, then maybe we can obviously make this change.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Classic question. I have no idea. I wish I could say. I wish I could even envision it. But 5 years ago, I saw myself, or I didn't even see myself in a way, because 5 years is so long. I knew in 5 years, when I first started university, I'd be finished and I'd probably be in a graduate job. 5 years before that, I just saw myself going to university. And now that I'm outside of university, I'm on this journey of being an entrepreneur. My future as a whole is so, I don't know, so undescribable, because I have no idea what's going to happen next. But in 5 years, I see myself in a position where I can make real change. And I cannot define that right now, because the future is still not written, or I believe anyway. And I see myself in a position where I can actually make a change. Right now, I'm talking about it. I'm raising awareness. I'm slowly building up on it. And I'd hope to have a number of businesses that are all working together as a unit in some way or another to create shared value, right? So that could be only hiring apprentices for one of my technology business, Castor Space Technologies, which I started out of university. So for example, helping the community with that. And hopefully in 5 years' time, I'm in a position maybe even financially, to start making a real difference. And, you know, one day, hopefully take that sort of what I've learned back to Africa and implement it there, and take it and share it with the rest of the world. And hopefully that means that over time, we will slowly start moving towards a more sustainable future, where there's a lot more opportunities for people, regardless of what background you come from and what your situation is. As long as you're willing to learn and you're willing to push yourself forward and be determined and hardworking, there will always be something for you there. That's the future I envision. The people who want something can work hard for it and grasp it. I guess that was the concept of the American dream in the beginning. So that's what I think what I want to see myself in 5 years doing, is offering that up to the world and saying, listen, here you go. Here's an opportunity for you us to be more sustainable and to live our lives in a better way. So in 5 years' time, I want to be able to be in a position where I can actually do that on the world stage. And if that means just saying what I need to say in an interview like this, maybe in 5 years' time, I'll be saying this to a lot more people and inspiring them to do more. And I'll tell you right now, I have no idea what my future holds, but I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm passionate. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well.
Let's see.
You touched earlier upon, a purpose, a life purpose. I'd like to hear you kind of expand on that. I mean, what do you really feel is your purpose in life?
I guess everybody is on a sort of journey of understanding of their own purpose. Like, what does our life mean? What is our meaning of life? What are we here for? And I guess my purpose really is to try and understand that better. Because while I'm here, I might as well do good. Because we're only on this planet for a short period of time. What gives life meaning is death. And in that case, I might as well do good while I'm here. So achieve greatness. And by achieving greatness and helping other people achieve greatness, that basically means humanity as a whole will achieve greatness. And I guess I've read a lot of books and watched a lot of documentaries. But philosophically, I guess my view on the meaning of life is to gain more knowledge and learn more expands. Life in itself is basically a being of infinite knowledge. So we constantly want to gain more knowledge. By having children, we retain our knowledge and we give our knowledge to our children. Cells replicate themselves, and that knowledge is then divided into our DNA stores our knowledge, and knowledge of our base human codes. And I think over time we gain more knowledge and share more knowledge. So I think my purpose in life is not just to gain and learn more and understand more, but to share that. Because I'm only here for a certain period of time. And while I'm here, I want to make sure that my life has meaning, that I've done something with it. I'm happy, I guess. I've got good family, I've got good friends. I've been very lucky. I've had all the opportunities life could possibly give me, even despite circumstances in the past and with Zimbabwe and where I grew up. I've still taken those opportunities and I've pushed myself forward. So my purpose in life is to share the information, share the skills that I've gained. And my purpose in life is to share this knowledge and to build everyone else up. Because I see a future, and I guess my vision of the future is where human beings are looking to the stars rather than looking back down on the ground. So we're looking forward rather than looking behind, remembering the past but not letting the past define us. So my purpose in life is that. My purpose in life is to help others achieve greatness. And in turn, that will help me achieve greatness. And that hopefully humanity achieve greatness. And I guess maybe it's a child's dream of a better future of watching too many sci-fi films. But I've realized that the sci-fi films that we watch as a kid defines what happens in the future. Those kids that watch Star Trek were the kids that invented the mobile phone, and so on and so forth. So I guess my vision of the future is a vision of not perfection, but balance of humanity and a balance of people. So yeah, hopefully my part in that, will help us develop better, and that's my purpose. My purpose is to be a part of building this future that I see. And maybe I'm naive in expecting that it'll come, but I'm a dreamer, like I said before.
Yeah. I mean, I find it almost scary. I feel as though you're kind of staggeringly evolved for a guy who's just in his early 20s, and that's maybe a kind of backhanded insult to you. What
okay.
what are some of the, you spoke about, books and some documentaries that you've watched. What are the things, what are the things that have inspired you? What are some of those books and documentaries?
I think obviously I could list of a couple. There's one book called The Holographic Universe, which is really interesting. There's a book called 1984 by George Orwell. Books like obviously that, sci-fi books. Think about Harry Potter, for example, a book that sort of inspires loads of children to think about magic and the universe. I love watching documentaries about our place in the universe, and sometimes even at night. I think I've said this to many people before, but it's a great way for me to fall asleep as I imagine my place in the universe, and I expand and I expand and I expand out like a zoom on Google Maps, and I keep going further and further, and I think about myself in the universe and the galaxy, and then into a cluster of galaxies and so on and so forth until I can't imagine anymore. So to me, it's never been about what I actually have watched, but what I don't understand. Because I guess I'm full of quotes tonight because it's just one of those nights. But I think life in itself is a journey of understanding. So like I talked about knowledge before, and unfortunately, fear on the other side of things is a misunderstanding. So you fear things you don't understand. You fear things you do not control. You fear death because you don't understand death. You don't know what comes next. You fear that you cannot control death, which is true. We cannot control it. And at that point, I guess I realized this understanding is at the heart of it all. Like, you speak about how I'm looking at the future in this way, and I've watched documentaries and read books and stuff, but I just constantly have this hunger for knowledge. I want to learn more and understand more. And the more that I understand, the more that I feel like I'm aware of my surroundings. And I guess I'm a different person now than I was a week or two ago because, for example, in that time period I've done this and that, I met with this person, that person. And I think every experience we ever have defines us as a person. So I think if something had not happened to me as a child, if I had not left Zimbabwe, I would be definitely a different person today. Because my experiences are who define me right now. It doesn't define me who I'll be in the future, because that's my choice and my actions. But the more I learn, I think that's the wiser you become, and that's why we consider people who are older than ourselves to be wiser. And I guess in my position, I'm 22. I'm just out of university. I'm a wee bairn, as you would call it. In terms of society's norms, but I keep my ears open. I guess I've got a watchful gaze. I look at a situation and I try and analyze it in a way. And a lot of people I've met in my life have kind of intrigued me in a certain way and led me down a certain path. And I'm very inquisitive and very curious. I guess my teachers hated me for that because I always asked loads of questions. And that's why I've learned so much. I guess it's not specifically one book I've read, or one specific documentary, but it's this curiosity that I've had, that human beings, I guess, have had for eons. We've always wondered what it is that makes us us and why we're here, and all these questions. And these questions themselves are what drives human beings to be the way we are. We question our surroundings, that self-awareness of why is the world like this? At one point in time we thought the world was flat. Some people still do, obviously. And now we know it's round, for example. We know that it no longer, the world that we live in is not the center of the universe. The Earth is rotating around the sun. So we're not even the center of our own solar system. We're not the center of our known galaxy. And suddenly, the more we learn, the more questions we have. And that's what excites me. So I think when you spoke about what it is that I've learned, or what it is that I'm reading, I'm not reading anything specifically. I'm just keeping my eyes and ears open, and that makes me, I guess, more self-aware. And conversations like this is why I'm happy to have interviews like this. I guess people will look at me and say, "Oh, that guy's a bit weird. He's talking about all these things. It's very philosophical. That's very deep." But I love it. I love thinking about it, because maybe one day I stumble upon the meaning of life. Maybe one day I just go, "It all makes sense now," and that eureka moment. Where suddenly, you realize by putting yourself in the bath, the water level rises, and oops, there's this force, this gravity that is doing all these things. And suddenly, I'm waiting for that eureka moment for me. And the more discussion I have, and the more conversation I have about philosophical beings and the universe, and the more documentaries I watch and things I read, all adds to my better understanding of the world and my worldview. But yeah, I think this, for anybody out there who wonders a bit more, I think you just got to keep learning. keep opening your eyes a bit more and more, read more things, ask more questions. I don't think there's any such thing as a silly question. There's no silly questions, only silly answers. And I think if you keep asking questions, maybe you'll find your answers.
That's such a good answer. It's funny because you said, maybe people will think you're strange for speaking like this. I think you're completely normal for speaking like this. I'm absolutely on the same sort of frequency or level, but it's taken me a lot longer than you to get there.
Everybody's different, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think you would like your legacy to be?
Ooh, I guess I don't really want a legacy as such. I think a legacy is nice. It makes me feel good. I've been given loads of awards at university, and with even the Edinburgh Apprentice was an award as such. But I don't really particularly want the award. The award just adds, I guess, to a glorified CV. But I think I want my legacy to be an inspiration to those that follow. I guess a bit the way we look at our role models. Maybe, for example, I guess a role model for me is Elon Musk, a man who grew up in South Africa and started a tech company in the beginning and went through a lot of hardship and a lot of failure and resilience, and he's built the companies he has today. And his vision of the world is miraculous, and I completely resonate with it. So I think my legacy would be something similar to that. I want my legacy to be leaving the world a better place. And I don't mean for just like maybe if I have children one day, not just for my children or the children of the world, but I want my legacy to be that I left the world in a better place than I found it. Because right now, I guess we've got a lot of issues, and like I said before, I've decided that I'm going to take action, and now that I've started, I'm not going to stop. Then there's always more problems to solve. And when there's no more problems to solve, I'm going to start looking out there for things that I can do, looking at the stars and seeing if we can get there. And seeing if one day, we can start answering these questions that we've been asking ourselves since the day we were born. I guess that's what my legacy would be, an inspiration to the people that follow, that if you take action, if you decide that you want to make a change, if you want to make a difference, that you can do that. That, who knows, one day your idea could change the world. I think that's what I want my legacy to be.
How do you define success?
I think success is defined by different people as different things. I think success could be you having a family, being a good father. Success would be becoming the CEO of a company. It can be success in any forms of the way we look at the world. To me personally, my success is meeting my goals, right? So my success is when I've done something that I feel is deserveth of, or completing of my goal. So my success is really actually based upon being a good person. And it's very hard to define because, what is a good person and what is ethics behind that. And I think being a good person doesn't just mean looking after one another. It means taking responsibility for the issues around you. And I think my success in life, if I were to say when I would be happy, when I've reached that peak of success, is when my every sort of operation and my businesses and my life as a whole is making a difference. Like it's sustainable, it's effective, it's making a change. I think that's my success. My success is when I see children, for example, playing in the park and not having to worry about the air they breathe, or kids going to the seaside and not seeing plastic on the beaches. When I was in Asia, I constantly saw beaches filled with plastic that on Instagram photos look gorgeous, but when you actually go there, you don't realize that the top of the picture is always cut off. Sorry, the bottom of it cut off rather. And that's the way I define success. When my personal success is when the world is a better place. The world is a cleaner place. The world is a lot more friendly. People don't have to strive and to survive. I think when human beings, and I've just mentioned this before, when human beings get to the point where we no longer have to worry about survival, our basic needs, that's when we can really start to evolve intellectually. And we don't have to worry about feeding our family. We don't have to worry about those fundamental issues. We're not scared about the planet crumbling in amongst ourselves because we've caused these issues in society. We've caused climate change. That more scientists, or 99% of scientists say that it is our fault. and we have beautiful data for this. So we need to start taking responsibility for this. And I think my success in life would be at the point where not only have I've taken responsibility for us, but us as a society have done that, and we've moved towards making that change. So my success will be when we've actually made that change. And I guess I may never actually make that success, but along the way, I'm going to celebrate the small successes and the first sale for Helping Hands, for example, the first product we produce for CST, potentially one day if I ever get married, I guess that'll be a small success, making it through marriage. All these small things, I guess, in life. And that's definitely what I realized. Another thing when I realized in Asia was the key to happiness is determining what it is that makes you happy. So there's a difference between, and this quote comes from, I think this is a quote comes from Sense8. It's a series, and I love watching these series that open your mind. I like to escape, but I also like to think at the same time. And the quote goes, there's a difference between the things that you work for and the things that you live for. And it's very important to figure out what you live for and not what you work for, because the things that you work for are not always the things that make you happy. So along the way, I'm going to make sure that I'm happy. And that means accepting, appreciating, and occasionally being ambitious about, different things in the world. So that's my success. And I'm sure your success is different.
Success is a funny one. It's obviously something that I've spoken to a lot of people about. And I think it really is it's determined by the individual entirely. And then it can be small things or it can be, big things, but
It's very different, isn't it?
Yeah. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, it's so hard. I think I can litter through so many pieces of advice. But I think one of the things is to never let go of your dreams. And obviously I think this is a cliche because a lot of people do say that, but I constantly get tested by my own resolve whether or not I think, am I going in the right direction? And I think, am I doing the right thing? Did I turn down a job to start my businesses? I could have been earning a lot of money, and I could have, I've been in a very good financial position. And right now, I guess I'm not in that financial position that I would be if I was in that job, but I still am happy. So I guess actually on the back of that, I think the best piece of advice I ever got was from a mentor at university, Jack Brady, and he said to me, sometimes you just need to follow your heart. And I think he said to me, it's very difficult to make a decision sometimes because your brain says you should do this. Your brain says you should choose this because it makes logical sense, because you'll be financially stable and you can think about the career progressions and all the rest of that. But sometimes in here it doesn't quite sit right. And that's the point where I think I really developed as a person when I stopped. I analyze things, obviously, and I look at it with an engineering mind, but then sometimes I go, what do I actually want to do? Like, what I want to do. And that's when I think, going after your dreams and listening to your heart sort of thing, that's when the advice really comes at the same time. I've always got, a clear head. I try to have a clear head. My parents gave me that. They've always tried to make me a realist and realize what I can do and what I can achieve. And I'm very lucky that I've had very supportive parents like that. So definitely thank them for that, amongst other things, many lectures. But definitely that, I think, follow your heart. Sometimes it's hard, it's difficult, and I guess what leads on to following from your heart is, sometimes the hardest things are actually the ones that are worth it the most. So I guess in following my heart with these businesses, I'm feeling happier and I'm feeling better as a person, I'm growing as a person. So I think if other people try and follow that advice, sometimes, if you hate your job in the banking industry or financial services and then you take on something else, it may be really hard and you may feel like the avenues are very difficult for you, but as long as you follow your heart, as long as you feel good, and as long as you're happy about what you're doing, maybe you're struggling to get by financially, but eventually it'll pick up because, if you're doing what you love, it's always good. And I think this is actually a great quote, and I'm on the quote day, so it's quote day for me. It's quote day. If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's what someone said to me in Asia, and I was like, you're right, sir. You're right.
Love that. I'd normally ask if you had the opportunity to speak to your 20-year-old self, what would you say? For you, it's not been terribly long, but if you were to speak to your 15-year-old self, what would you say?
I've actually thought about this before, because I've thought, you know, would I ever tell myself if I was younger what my future would be like? And I wouldn't really tell him anything. I think he'd find it out for himself. But in reality, I'd basically just say to him, don't worry, you know, everything's going to be all right in the end. And just enjoy the small things along the way. Because the moment is always fleeting. And I think what's most important is sometimes just enjoying the family dinner, sitting down, having family dinner, listening sometimes to the arguments across the table, or the bickering, all for banter, obviously. And just those small moments which you'll actually remember more than anything else. Yeah. So I'll just tell my younger self that to not worry about anything. Like, at the end of the day, things will always be all right. Yeah. The world's not going to stop. And if it does end, you know, it's not really the end of the world as we know it. You know, with every change, you know, there's always something good comes out of it. Something beautiful, something magical in chaos. And the universe was formed, I guess, in our scientific knowledge right now from chaos. Yeah. So for something that was disastrous and would look disastrous, you've got this lovely blue planet which we live on, with massive diversity in us. So I think I would just tell him just not to worry about it. Sometimes, you know, you'll be stressed. Sometimes you'll have good days. Sometimes you'll have bad days. But at the end of the day, it's always all right. Yeah, because I think all the other things I've learned in my life, you know, without the experiences, you know, the heartbreak, for example, of, you know, certain people in your life, and the tough decisions that you have to make, you know, sometimes it's not going to help if you tell somebody how to do it. Sometimes, you know, no matter how many times your parents tell you that you shouldn't do this or maybe you shouldn't do that, until you make those decisions and you make those mistakes, you'll never learn. And I think I was given enough birth as a child, enough space rather to make those mistakes, and those mistakes really helped me grow as a person. And because I've made those mistakes, I guess, you know, I now know, for example, not to step on fire wearing plastic shoes, because the hot coals go straight through the plastic. Jeez. And yeah, you know, don't little boys who play with fire wet their beds, sort of thing. Instead of wetting my beds, I got blisters on my feet.
Yeah. Ouch.
So I learned those lessons.
Yeah.
But I just tell my younger self, like, don't to worry, man. Like, no matter what, like how old I become, I would always tell my younger self, and hopefully I keep telling myself as well. Just sometimes just enjoy the moment, enjoy the roses. Like, yeah. Edinburgh's got a lot of great scenery, so sometimes I just I look at the scenery, just take a big breath of air and just go, God, it's a beautiful day. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, yeah. If you could change anything in the world, what would it be and why?
Change. I think if I were to change one thing in the world, I think I would. I'd make everybody connected, and in a weird way, this may not work, because obviously it's very hard to do so, but make sure that you could hear everybody's thoughts. Right? Imagine if you could hear every single person's thoughts. Right? There's a movie called The Circle, and I just watched, and this with Tom Hanks, and the idea would be that if you could hear everybody's thoughts, everybody was connected, a bit like a series called Sense8 as well. It means you couldn't lie to one another, and sometimes lying in itself means that we're keeping secrets from each other, and keeping secrets creates rifts or gaps between our connection. And somewhere along the line, you know, by, you know, telling a white lie, sometimes it's a surprise, so it's, you know, it's quite cute. But other times, you know, you could say something in the hopes that you gain something from it. You know, people become greedy, and there's obviously different ways in the world that people get to the point where suddenly you have power over somebody else, and at that point we start to really divide as a people. So we've obviously got a class system. We've got issues between people who are really poor, who want more, who need more, and people who have so much that they don't know what to do with it. Yeah. So I think the point where you remove the ability to lie by making everybody be able to communicate, let's say with our minds, or even at the same time, nobody can lie at all. I think if you can change that, you'd make the world a more open place in a way. I guess it'd be quite scary because everyone would know what you're thinking. So it'd be kind of weird in a way, but I think it's a bit of a radical view of looking at it. But
It
if
is.
nobody could lie because everybody could see everyone else's thoughts, then as soon as you started to do something, you'd have to be open and you'd have to be honest and you have to be transparent. The same way I guess we're trying to do with Helping Hands. Like we're not laying anything out. We're saying that we're trying to achieve this. This is our transparency. Like we're not a charity. We're for profit because we want to be sustainable. We're not hiding that. And if people start to do that as well, if they said, listen, like I made a mistake, I've done this, instead of saying, no, this is the right decision, even though we said an hour ago that was the wrong decision, that ability to not lie, I think might actually change the way we see the world. Maybe it's something different. Maybe I should have asked for peace, like everyone else. Maybe I should have asked for superpowers. Everyone had superpowers. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to think. In a world where everyone hears each other, like what would be the impact of that? I'm not sure if it would necessarily ameliorate all problems, but certainly it would make people accountable for greed, lying, and all your kind of sinful traits.
Yeah. I guess it's always really hard because you've only got one thing to change.
Yeah.
And I know that, you can't force peace because you can't change that peace as a result of something. Or you can't give everybody countless amounts of food or things like that, because then there's reparations where there's always cause and effect.
Yeah.
And I think the effect of having everybody hear each other means that maybe we'll become more connected. Or if it means that for somebody across the globe who I can then be in their shoes and see from their eyes and see from their senses, again, this series Sensate, I guess I've been a bit inspired by that. Then maybe at that point I'll be a bit more self-aware.
Yeah.
I think doing that one change that I've envisioned means that people will actually have to take a step in other people's shoes. The grass is always green on the other side, but until you're on the other side, you don't know that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's you always look at these CEOs or these millionaires and everything else, and you think they've got such a great life, but sometimes you think they're greedy or they've done this or they got to their position by being bad people. But sometimes it's by being good people, by being lucky or by being hardworking. You don't understand their stories, and only until you listen to their stories do you realize that they're people like you and me. And I think that's what I want to change. If anything, it's just showing people that we're so much more alike. Our differences shouldn't separate us. Our similarities should bring us closer together.
Yeah.
And I think that's what growing up in an international school did to me, was showed me that it doesn't matter what color you are, what culture you're from, what background, what ethnicity, what age you are. You can still be friends, and you're all sort of the same people. You're all going to the same classes. You all have the one teacher you don't like. You all have the one teacher that gives you loads of homework, and you all don't want to do that homework. So it's finding those similarities. And I think if I made that one change, and I know I'm going on about this because it would be cool, really.
Yeah, it would, absolutely. Amazing. Selby, I've had so much fun speaking with you. I knew that you were a smart guy, a very inspiring guy, and a deep guy, but some of your answers, I have to say, I'm fairly blown away by. So yeah, I've absolutely loved this. It's been brilliant.
Well, thank you for your kind words. Like I wasn't expecting praise on this interview, but I guess I got it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was great. I love having these discussions.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Selby, thank you so much.
Cheers, Elliot.
Cheers.
All the best.